It was a picture-perfect winter evening. Snow blanketed the sleepy town of Red Cliff, Colorado. Inside a rustic log cabin, a new family gathered around the fireplace, warming their hands, exchanging stories, sipping hot cocoa. But then, a smell. Not the woodsy scent of burning pine. Something sharp, acrid, foul. The fire hissed strangely. Black smoke began curling from the hearth. And as it rose, it brought with it a stench that would shatter the illusion of safety. This wasn't just another malfunctioning chimney. This was something darker, deeper. Days later, when the chimney sweep arrived and began clearing the flue, he stopped cold. What he saw changed everything. Wedged in the chimney, behind soot, ash, and time, was a human body. The horror that unfolded would raise more questions than answers. Was this an accident? A murder? Or something else entirely? What began as a quiet move into a new home would turn into one of the strangest and most disturbing true crime cases ever documented. Welcome to True Crime Hub, where forgotten victims find a voice, and the shadows are forced into the light. This is the story of Joshua Maddox, the teen found dead inside a chimney. A case declared accidental by officials, but dismissed as nonsense by experts, family members, and a growing chorus of truth seekers online. Grab a warm drink and settle in, but don't get too comfortable, because this story might just keep you up at night. The family that moved into the log cabin in 2010 was excited. The home had been vacant for over a year, and though it needed some TLC, it held charm. A fireplace, rustic beams, and solitude. But soon after moving in, something felt off. The fireplace, the centerpiece of the living room, produced an unbearable odor when used. Acrid, clinging to clothing and nostrils. The smell of decay. They assumed an animal had crawled into the flue and died, not uncommon in rural areas. When black smoke began to billow from the hearth one night, they called in professionals. The chimney sweep who arrived expected to remove a dead raccoon or bird nest. What he didn't expect was human remains. He described the moment he saw fingers, blackened, curled, and unmoving, reaching down from the darkness. Police, firefighters, and forensic teams descended upon the scene. Tape went up. Reporters began circling. The chimney had kept its secret for 2 long years. But now, that secret was out. Dental records confirmed what local police feared. The body was that of 18-year-old Joshua Maddox. Joshua had disappeared in 2008. A bright, thoughtful teenager, Josh had an adventurous spirit. He loved music, wrote poetry, played guitar, and often hiked through the woods near his home. He was grieving the death of his older brother, Zachary, and sometimes needed solitude. On the day he vanished, Joshua told his sister he was going for a walk. He never came back. His family searched tirelessly. Posters were hung. Missing persons reports filed. Search parties organized. Nothing. No trace. Until now. Until the chimney. His clothes were found neatly folded next to the fireplace. No shoes. No jacket. The body was naked from the waist up. His position in the chimney? Upside down. Wedged. Arms by his side. Knees slightly bent. A contortion that screamed. He didn't get there on his own. Initially, the Park County coroner and law enforcement claimed the death was accidental. That Joshua had likely climbed onto the roof, tried to enter the cabin via the chimney, and became stuck. But experts questioned that. First, the cabin's chimney was blocked by a heavy metal grate at the top. It was intact and would have been difficult, if not impossible, to bypass without tools. Second, there was no fireplace entrance inside the cabin. The hearth had been sealed. A person entering from the top would have found no exit, only blockage. Third, his clothes were inside the house. Folded, meaning he was already inside the cabin when he removed them. So how did he get into the chimney? Soon, rumors surfaced about a man named Andrew. Andrew and Joshua had been acquaintances in high school. After graduation, Andrew left Red Cliff and became involved in a life of crime and drugs. Years later, Andrew allegedly told people during a drug-fueled ramble that he had put a guy in a chimney. Was it bravado, a metaphor, or a literal confession? Law enforcement did not consider Andrew a viable suspect. There was no physical evidence. And soon, Andrew was dead, stabbed to death in a violent altercation out of state. With him, any potential truth may have died too. Forensic pathologists challenged the accidental death ruling. The body had signs of stress-related injuries, consistent with forced insertion. Decomposition had preserved parts of the skin, but there were strange patterns on Joshua's arms, as if his limbs had been forced past sharp surfaces. The angle of entry also didn't match the natural layout of the chimney. For a person to end up upside down in that specific location, someone else would likely have to lower him or forcibly stuff him. Additionally, experts were baffled by the lack of panic signs. No scratch marks. No evidence he'd tried to claw his way out. Which could mean one thing: Joshua may have already been unconscious or dead. Joshua's father never believed it was an accident. Nor did his sisters. They described Joshua as physically strong, mentally sharp, and someone who avoided risky behavior. He wasn't a drug user. He wasn't depressed. He had college plans. The idea of him willingly attempting to enter a chimney, naked, defied logic. But the local sheriff insisted it was an accident. Case closed. That phrase would haunt the Maddox family. For them, the case was far from closed. And the public began questioning the official story. Reddit threads, YouTube videos. Amateur investigators analyzed the scene, compared chimney blueprints, and dug into Andrew's background. Some proposed that Joshua had walked in on something illegal at the cabin, a drug stash, a hideout, or even a crime, and was silenced. Others believed the homeowner at the time had something to hide. But that man had died years earlier, and the house was empty when police found Joshua. Still, too many coincidences. Too much secrecy. National media briefly picked up the case. True crime documentaries hinted at it but never dug deep. Cold case organizations petitioned for a reopening of the investigation. Forensic reanalysis. But each effort stalled. Meanwhile, Joshua's story faded from headlines, surviving only in whispers and internet forums. His family remained vocal. They demanded answers. They refused to let Joshua become a forgotten statistic. Several chimney professionals went on record saying the idea of entering from the top was absurd. They demonstrated how narrow the space was, how the flue's design prevented entry, how even if someone were desperate, their body would leave marks that didn't exist on Joshua's corpse. Others pointed out the psychological patterns of killers who use unconventional body disposal, how chimneys symbolically erase victims. Could this be the work of a local serial offender? Was Joshua one of multiple hidden victims? Why did no one see or hear Joshua the day he disappeared? Why was his death declared accidental with so many red flags? What really happened inside that cabin in 2008? Joshua Maddox deserves justice. His family deserves peace. And someone, somewhere, knows more than they've said.